Mr. Steve Chabot of Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to again thank you and the ranking member, as others, for your at least attempts to get sanctions work, tougher sanctions. I think it's something worthwhile to pursue. That being said, just one thing I wanted to make sure that I'm accurate on this. 90%, perhaps more, of what North Korea, the regime especially, needs to survive, they get from one source or another from China. Is that, I see a nodding. Ms. Thornton, would you agree with that also? Okay. That being said, obviously China's the key, has been for a long time, continues to be. It seems to me there are two things which could get China's attention. They've given us lip service for decades now. But one of those things is the trade with the U.S. is significant. And it seems that if we literally, I mean, some sanctions on banks that may help a little bit, but it's not going to have the result, I think, that we all want, and that's to avoid military action and get North Korea to back off this march to madness in their nuclear program. So one way is if we actually did cut off trade. And, of course, if we did that, would it have an adverse impact on the American economy? Of course it would. However, I'd say that pales in comparison to the impact on the American economy if we see a thermonuclear device go off in Seattle or San Francisco or L.A. or New York or Washington. So that's one thing that I think could actually get China's attention. I think the other thing, Ms. Thornton, you sort of may have been at least thinking about this when you said that we're discussing with Japan and South Korea what they may want to move ahead on. And I don't know if this is what you had in mind or not, but it's certainly what I have in mind and have said this for years. They do not want Japan or South Korea to have their own nuclear programs. And I have thought for a long time that we should at least be discussing that with them, and I think the discussions alone could have gotten their attention to get them to put pressure on North Korea to back off. It may be too late for that now, but could you comment on those two items which perhaps could get China to actually put sufficient pressure on North Korea to back away from this madness?
Sure. Well, I mean, we are certainly looking at every option to put more pressure on China. We're also using all of our global partners to speak up and it also, from their perspectives, put pressure on China, because we do see China as the key to the solution of this problem, if we can get there. I think, as for cutting off trade, obviously that would be a huge step, and there are a lot of ramifications of that. I think going after entities and banks are a way of going more directly after the North Korean angle here, but I agree with you that trade is preferable to seeing any kind of military confrontation, especially one that would involve people in the United States. But on the issue of defenses in Japan and South Korea, we've certainly been talking to Japan and South Korea about beefing up their defenses and their ability to themselves take action in the event of an attack. And even those discussions have gotten China's attention. You probably know Chinese have been very vocal about their opposition to the THAAD deployment in South Korea, which we have moved ahead on now and gone ahead and deployed over and above their objections. And we have made clear that there's, the Japanese are seeking additional defensive systems to enable them to ward off a direct attack from North Korea. And it is quite clear, I think, already to the Chinese that this is an area that is going to be further developed if we can't rein in the threat from North Korea.
It's my view that short of one of those two actions, I think we're going to continue down this path where Kim Jong-un will continue to move forward on this nuclear program, and that'll leave only the option, the military option, which there's no good to come from that. We know if we take that action, they can target Seoul, and literally tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives could be lost, including American lives. So that's the last resort, although may ultimately come to that. Or the alternative that some people are suggesting now as well. We have a nuclear China, we have a nuclear Russia. We don't like that. So maybe we end up with a nuclear North Korea, which why, either one of you, why can we not allow that to happen? How are they different?
You know, a lot of times people talk about the North Koreans needing a nuclear program for their own defense. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there's been basically a mutual deterrence in effect since the end of the Korean War. They have a conventional position that allows them to target Seoul. And so the idea that they need nuclear weapons for their own defense when there's never been a retaliation for any of their provocative or hostile or even kinetic actions that they've taken is a bit of a bridge too far, I think. So the concern is that they are pursuing a nuclear program in order to use that program to conduct blackmail and hold other countries hostage and continue to take even worse sorts of steps in their behavior. Proliferation is another major concern, of course. It undermines the entire global non-proliferation system and would be, we presume, ripe for sale and sort of proliferation around the world.